All right, good morning, ladies and gents. Today our demo is going to be roasted chicken legs, pan roasted chicken legs. So now that we did a tender cut with our chicken cacciatore with the chicken breast, now we are going to go over to a tough cut, the chicken leg. So chicken legs do a lot more work, therefore they're going to be a lot more tough. They're going to have a lot more flavor, but you need to cook them a little more slowly. So today we are actually going to be using the oven for that, and we're going to cook it over a much longer period of time to break down the connective tissue that is in the legs to produce something that is really delicious, very succulent, and has a nice crispy skin. All right, so as far as the ingredients, let's go ahead and get started with that. You're going to need, this will serve about 2 to 4 people. Obviously you can scale this up however you wish. You're going to need 2 chicken legs with the skin on. Now you can have that as just thighs, just drumsticks, or the chicken leg quarters. I'll get to that here in a few moments. You're going to need kosher salt and pepper, as well as any other spices that you would like to use. You're going to need vegetable oil or canola oil, just a high smoke point oil, about a tablespoon or 2 just to coat the bottom of the pan. You're going to need, as far as the vegetable side that we are going to go with, we are going to go with green beans. So for 2 people, you're going to need about 8 to 10 ounces of green beans. Now these have been already prepped. I'll show you how to do that here in a few moments. You're going to need half of an onion, julienned. I'll show you again how to do that. 2 to 4 cloves of garlic minced. I'm going to show you how to mince that. As far as how many cloves of garlic, again, I say 2 to 4. It just depends on what you personally like. Then you're going to need about a tablespoon of soy sauce, about a tablespoon or so of honey, and then optional, either a 1/4 cup, 2 ounces of chicken stock or water. Now, I know some of these ingredients I'm being a little vague as far as the amount. That is actually the point here. You have to kind of flavor this depending on your own personal tastes. I'm going to use a couple splashes. I'm going to eyeball how much soy sauce to use. I'm going to eyeball how much honey to use. Again, just for my own personal, taste. Don't worry, I didn't just knocked over an empty cup. With that, let's go ahead and get started with our chicken legs. Okay, for our first step, we're going to talk about the ingredient real quick. So here we're going to be doing chicken legs. Now, for this, you can use chicken thighs, you can use chicken drumsticks, or you can go with the whole chicken leg quarter. Doesn't really matter here. The timing is going to be the same. I'm going to be using 2 chicken drumsticks and 2 chicken thighs for this recipe, setting aside the rest of it and proceeding from there, okay? But just so you know, this recipe is pretty flexible here. The main thing is that we're going to be cooking this slowly. All right, so first step is I'm just going to pat the chicken dry, not only because it'll help us get a better sear, but also having hot oil and water mixed together is not that much fun. Okay, so still part of the, first step is to preheat your oven to 400 degrees. So first step is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Then the next step, second step, is to pat the chicken dry and to season over with kosher salt. Now, you are only just, for the beginning, going to use just kosher salt, nothing else. Because we're going to be searing this in a screaming hot pan, if you add spices to this, it's going to burn. So, just salt for now. Okay, let's go to our next step. Okay, so my next step here is I'm going to charge the pan with heat on about medium heat here for 5 to 6 minutes. Now, like I explained in one of our previous recipes, the reason why you're doing that is because you want the pores in the pan to close. Now, super important here that the pan that we're using is oven safe. So I'm going to be searing the chicken in here and then popping it right into the oven. So Now, if you don't have a oven-safe pan, you can sear this, put this onto a baking sheet, and then roast them in the oven that way. But if you have a stainless steel pan that doesn't have any plastic or rubber handles or anything like that, you are good to go. All right, so this pan has been charging with heat. I'm going to just test it with a little water. Make sure it bounces around the pan like that. Okay, and now I'm going to add in a little bit of oil here. And I'm going to sear the chicken. Making sure I lay the chicken down away from me. Okay. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just going to sear the skin on the outside just to caramelize it to help build that flavor. So let this go for a couple minutes here. I'll show you the skin, what it should look like, and we'll go from there. Okay, now while this is searing, I'm just going to check the skin. I want to just get a nice dark golden brown here for flavor, but also for texture. Now, if you're using drumsticks here, you can flip them over to sear the skin on the other side. You don't have to, though. Just kind of up to you. If you're using the chicken leg quarters like you see up there, you may want to just sear one side, but again, that is up to you. Okay. All right. From this point on, that looks nice, dark golden brown. I'm going to go to my next step here, which is to roast this in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. So let me back up the camera here. All right. Okay, and then I'm just going to pop this directly into the oven for about 20-25 minutes, or until the chicken comes out with a temperature of 165 degrees. Do keep in mind that chicken and just any meat will continue to carry over cook after it comes out of the oven. So you're probably wondering, why am I setting it for 165? 165 is the temperature you want it. Won't this overcook? Well, that's also the nice thing about darker meats, is because they have a lot more fatty muscle, or they have fat in their muscle, and also some extra gelatin and collagen. You can slightly take it a little bit further and it's fine. Not to mention, you do need to cook this at slightly higher temperatures to break down that connective tissue. All right, so I will be back in about 25 minutes on the chicken. Now we are going to go over to our green beans. Now, while I'm waiting for the chicken, one thing I'm doing is I have a pot of water slowly heating up, coming up to a boil. And then I have an ice bath with just water and ice that is going to be used to cool down the green beans after they come out of the salted water. So meanwhile, while I have my water coming up to a boil here and the chicken is roasting, I'm going to get my vegetable prep done. So here I've got my yellow onion. I've already sliced it in half through the root end. I've already peeled it. Now this is going to be julienned, so I'm going to completely slice off the root end. And then what I'm going to do is just keep my fingers curled. I'm just going to make slices all the way down. Now the thinner that you cut this, the more soft the onion will get, and it'll be more caramelized. If you want that as kind of a sweeter onion that kind of disappears in the green beans, then go with that. If you want to have a little bit more of that oniony crunch to this, then you can slice it a little bit thicker here. I'm going to kind of go in between here. Again, that is up to you. So slice just all the way down. Okay, then when it becomes wobbly, I'll turn it over. Okay, and there's my onions ready to go. Now, as far as my garlic prep, I'm going to take the root ends and just slice those right off. And then I'm just going to crush that lightly. And then I'm going to mince that. So Just one cut through. And then I'm just going to give it a quick mince here. Now normally I would say, hey, just go through once with, whenever you're making knife cuts, go through once. Yeah, ideally that's what you want to do, but in this case you just want the garlic really, really fine here, so you can take the extra effort to do that. Okay, now that my garlic is finely minced, I'm going to go ahead and just put that right into a ramekin or a thimble. Just keep that on the side, ready to go. And then I'm going to take my onions and put that to the side. All right. All right, now with the green beans, prep is simple there too. All you have to do is just top and tail each bean. So I have a bin right here, or pot that I'm going to use just for scraps and stuff. So I'm just going to line up the green beans, just kind of slice the ends off, kind of line them back up, slice them again. Okay, put the green beans to the side. Okay, again, just kind of gather a small bunch of them, get them kind of straightened out. Top, tail. Okay. And then green beans scraps go into this pot. And I'm just going to do the same thing with all of these, and that's all the prep that we need to do with them. So I've got my mise en place ready to go. I've got my green beans trimmed. I've got my onions julienned ready to go. And then I've got my garlic ready to go as well. Now, you can flavor the green beans however you want. I'm using just ginger. You can use just using garlic. You can use ginger and garlic. You can use green onions. You can choose a different flavor, bunch of options. The main technique that I want you to understand today is how to prep and cook and blanch a green vegetable, chill it down, and then reheat it later when you're ready to serve it and eat it. Okay, so pretty much now that all of my green beans are prepped and ready to go, I'll show you how to blanch these and get them ready for sauteing. Okay, so here they go. We'll go on to our next step. Alright, so now that my water is up at a full rolling boil, what I'm going to do is super important here is to add salt to the blanching water. So once again, I've got my water, I've got my ice bath. Now what I'm going to do in this step is I'm going to take my green beans that have been prepped and ready to go, and I'm just going to blanch them for about 2 minutes. Okay, and you'll notice almost immediately the color of the green beans is going to start to darken, become a much more bright green. Okay, now the whole purpose of this step is to just basically cook the green bean all the way through. Whereas what we're going to do later is we're going to chill it down and stop the cooking process to then saute in our pan that the chicken is in right now. So that way we absorb all the flavors from the chicken and it gets into our vegetables. So I'm going to let this go for about 2 minutes. Super important to let the water come back to a full rolling boil as quick as possible. You don't want it really sitting there too much. I know I've got a few green beans like this one I probably should not be using here. They just are a little brown, but that's okay. Little brown spots is alright, but that one was just a little too much. Alright, so I'll be back in about another minute or so. Alright, so now green beans come out, go directly into our ice water bath. Now, the whole point of this step is to stop the cooking process now that the green beans are mostly cooked all the way through. In fact, they're tender, they're basically ready to eat right now. What we're going to do is we're going to stop the cooking process and then finish it when we're ready to eat. Okay, so this is commonly what restaurants do for their vegetable prep, so that they can serve you hot meals within, a couple minutes of you ordering. They cook a lot of this stuff ahead of time, cool it down, and then when you order it, it's their job to then reheat it and serve it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that here a little bit later, but right now we're going to be waiting on the chicken, and should be good from there. Alright, I'm going to carefully take these out of the oven. Now, I have already temped them before, so they should be good to go. Now, if we flip this over, you'll see just how nice and beautiful golden brown that is. With meat that's nice and slow roasted, that is succulent and really tasty. So, what I'm going to do now, my next step here is I'm going to take these out. Just gonna actually just give them a quick dab on some paper towel here. Oops. Okay. And now from here, I'm just gonna let them rest for at least 10 minutes or so before I bite into them, or you cut into them, I should say. Okay. A little bit of parsley for garnish. You can use green onions, whatever you like. Just be really careful. Obviously, this pan is screaming hot. Now, from here, important step, now the green beans and all our vegetables are prepped and ready to go. Rather than take out a completely separate pan for this, we have all of our chicken fat, all our juices, all our fond and everything, all those brown bits on the bottom of this pan. So we're going to use this same pan. However, there is quite a bit of fat in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour off a decent amount of it, just kind of pour that on the side. Okay, leaving about a tablespoon or so in order to cook my vegetables. Now, don't throw this away, leave this on the side in case we need it to saute, or as we're sauteing we see that we need a little bit more fat, we'll use that because that has a lot of flavor in it right now. Yeah, now we're going to go ahead and go to our vegetable prep. I'm just going to put this on the side for now. Alright, now I got my pan that has all the brown fawns from the chicken, all that flavor. Have a little bit of the chicken fat in there. Now I'm going to saute my green beans. Now, with this, it's super important to have all of your ingredients prepped and ready to go, because once you start this process, you can't really stop. So now my green beans are cooked, the water has been drained off, and I'm going to go to my last step here. So let's go ahead and begin. So first things first, I'm going to just saute the green beans to just get a little bit of color on the outside of them. And you'll notice almost immediately all those brown bits that are on the bottom of the pan, or were on the bottom of the pan, have been deglazed and brought up. So now all that flavor from the chicken is now flavoring the vegetables, enhancing them, making them better. Alright, so I'm going to just keep an eye. It's got a little bit of charring, a little bit of browning there. So I'm going to add in my onions. Add that in and just saute that until it starts to brown and soften. Oops, lost one green bean there. Now, as I'm looking at this pan, I'm noticing the pan, it looks a little bit dry. So I'm going to take a little bit of the chicken fat. It's got to be careful, it is still a little hot. And going to add a little bit of that to the pan here, just to help it saute here. Okay, And then when the onions soften a bit, then I'll go to the next part here. Okay, now that the onions softened a bit, I'm going to add in my garlic. At first, you're going to notice it's going to smell pretty pungent, pretty strong at first, but as you cook it, it's going to soften, or the smell is going to sweeten a bit from that nice roasted garlic smell. Okay, so that needs about like 30 seconds, not even that much. Next, as you'll see, as I'm sauteing, you're noticing that the pan is starting to kind of get new brown bits on the bottom. Again, we don't want to waste that, so a good idea is to always deglaze the pan. So that's where my chicken stock comes in. Not only am I reinforcing that chicken flavor, but I'm also glazing the vegetables in this wonderful chickeny sauce. All right, now just for salinity, just going to add a few little dashes of soy sauce. Quick drizzle of honey. Again, just for balance, since we have salt and kind of this chicken fat in there. Honey is a good flavoring with this. Okay, and that looks good, so I'm going to turn off the flame, let this cool down. Now, important part here is to taste, just to check for acidities, for salt, before then you serve this and plate it. Okay. And this is a case, again, you just have to think of as far as what acid you use. Think about the flavors that you have in there. Do you want to go with lemon, or do you want to go with lime, or a type of vinegar? Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to plate this. Alright, so I added a little bit of apple cider vinegar to this, and this is ready to go. So, got my plate here, ready to go. Just going to take green beans, serve them right onto the plate, just wipe down plate just to kind of make it a little neater. Okay. And then I'm going to take out my chicken, which I've been keeping in a turned off oven just to keep warm as we're waiting here. Alright, and there we have it. So just like that, a easy dinner. So it does take a little bit longer than our chicken cacciatore. However, the meat on this will be much more succulent, a lot more flavorful, a little bit richer, a little bit more indulgent than our chicken breast before. So that is it for today. So that is our tough cut. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. I can help out however you need. And yeah, that is it for today. I'll see you guys back in the class.